Hello, welcome to the Dollhouse. I am the doll. Today I'm talking about the men struggling with colorism and not really seeing their hypocrisy. So, the first person that demonstrated colorism this week was Bob the Drag Queen. And the second is Kendrick Lamar. The first person that I'm going to be discussing is Bob the Drag Queen. But earlier this week, Kendrick Lamar demonstrated colorism. Now, I'm sure you've probably been beat over the head with discussion about Kendrick Lamar's beef with Drake. So I'm going to discuss what happened with Kendrick Lamar last. So Bob the Drag Queen was on his podcast, Sibling Rivalry, with another drag queen named Monet. And listen, y'all, I talk about how women should decenter men and should not be friends with men, even if they're gay. And I mean that. But that doesn't mean that I don't love men, and that doesn't mean that I don't love gay men. I love all people, and I take appreciation with Bob and Monet. They are hilarious. Monet has good style, and Bob is just a comedic genius. Bob is currently on tour with Madonna, and he won the show RuPaul's Drag Race in season 8. And I mean, he just completely dominated the competition, even with bad makeup and like underwhelming clothes. Bob, I'm sorry if you happen to listen to this one day, but it's true and you know it. It's fine. Anyway, Bob is the quintessential activist on the left right now. He considers himself to be non-binary, and I mean, he would probably be mad that I'm calling him he, but it's just the easiest thing to do right now. Bob the Drag Queen was commenting about Tyla, and he's very liberal. He very much aligns himself with blackness and being a descendant of the enslaved and being a member of an oppressed group and really having an identity rooted in blackness while also having a white boyfriend, while also being on tour with Madonna, while also having a fan base that is largely white. He gets mad at Tyla, and you can tell, like, he doesn't really know much about her, but he's not even willing to know anything beyond the fact that she called herself colored and said that she wasn't black. So I'm going to let you hear his take on Tyla being colored, and then we'll discuss his colorism and his hypocritical viewpoint.
Make me sway. Are you a Tyler fan, Bob?
No, I don't know any of her music besides that one song, and I only know the part that's on TikTok. So the short answer is no. I am not a Tyler fan.
You love a short, long answer. The short answer is no. If I had $1 for every time I heard Bob the Drag Queen say the short answer is, I'd have $1 million billion fucking dollars.
Well, it's just how I like to communicate. But yeah, no, I don't. Are you a fan of hers?
I like that song, and she has this new song called Art. That's cute, but she's one of those girlies coming out. What?
Is that a yes or a no?
Yeah, I'm a fan of her, but people like putting her shit like she's like one of the next R&B divas. I'm like, is she?
Isn't she the one who was like, I'm not black? That was her. She was like, I'm not black. She's not black.
Huh? Did she say that?
100% Tyler said she's not black. She said that she is colored.
Oh, because well, that's also just like a colloquialism. Like in South Africa, they say colored, they don't say black. Like
there are black people. There are black people in South Africa.
I know, but colloquially, a lot of them will say color as opposed to black. They have a whole different diasporic experience than we do.
That is true, but just to be clear, there are black people in South Africa.
Yes, 100%. I'm just saying
she's not one of them. She's one of the ones who says I'm not black. I mean, we have black folks in America, so they're not black. So,
but I think that like it's more. I want to say more normal because I don't know the whole. I mean, I know the general history about apartheid and such as in South Africa, but I know that there are a lot of South Africans. Oh, I met like about 4 South African people in my life who are how I would describe them as black, but they've called themselves colored.
All of them people told you that you met 4 South Africans, and then you said, "Are you black?" And you said, "Are you black?" And they said no.
I didn't ask if they were black, but they called themselves colored. And I remember I was like, but that's how they talk.
It's very interesting. We are.
This is the offending TikTok video where Tyla proclaimed that she was colored, playing behind me. I'm not going to play the music because I don't want any more copyright issues for this channel. So this is what he's referring to. Okay, so Bob basically one drops Tyla the way that most unambiguous dark-skinned Black Americans or the darker-skinned enslaved, and even light-skinned, even lighter-skinned descendants of the American enslaved have one-dropped people like Tyla, people like Danny Lay, one-dropping people like this when it's convenient, or when they think that, oh, if you get arrested, you get pulled over, you're going to have to say, one race. You're going to have to say what you are, and you're going to have to say black. Okay, well, but as soon as they identify with another aspect of their heritage, as soon as the same black person that people like Bob are requiring complete allegiance from, as soon as that person says something that Bob or others like Bob do not like, they get pushed out of blackness. And Exoticals United talks a lot about being pushed out of blackness. I've been pushed out of blackness too, mostly for political viewpoints, or maybe being too bougie at times, or just having different musical tastes or artistic tastes, style, because I've been wearing cowboy boots for many, many years. Many years. So that's not a popular thing amongst the hip hop crowd, okay? So anyway, Tyla, in Bob's viewpoint, Tyla should consider herself black. She has that one drop. She's South African. She's actually African. But because she isn't considering herself a fully black African, he does not want to give her any wiggle room or any grace to, and he never really did explicitly say, I'm not going to mess with her. But that's basically what he said. I'm not going to fool with her because she doesn't consider herself to be black. And then Bob and Monet, they explored the concept of what it means to be colored in South Africa versus what it means to be colored in America. And I can understand why Bob may not understand the South African customs and culture of being colored, but it's very complex. And the way that we think about race in America is not the way that everybody thinks about race. And the way we think about race is, it's a hindrance to our national security, to be honest. And if we want to live in a successful, multiracial, yet cohesive country and society, we cannot use race. We cannot use race as a basis for political negotiation. Basically, what I'm trying to say is this. If we want to live in a great country, then who gets resources? What resources they get? When they get those resources? Why they get those resources? How they get those resources? It cannot be based on race. We've seen how that goes. It doesn't go well. Okay, yes, there has been historical reasons why the descendants of the Americans enslaved, Native Americans, people, Japanese Americans have been given set-asides of reparations. Well, the descendants of the American enslaved have not been given reparations. And there's something that America has to atone for with us, which is acknowledging our heritage and connection to not just the enslaved, but also the slaveholders. And understanding that even a small bit of ancestry that is other than African can have a huge impact on a person's way of being, way of thinking. And it's not a bad thing. We have differences and beauty among all cultures of all colors. And race is really something that we have the luxury at this point in time to be able to start looking past. And so I'm hoping that Bob the drag queen would stop one-dropping other Americans and understand that all of us aren't connected to the struggle of being enslaved as a constant source of inspiration or a source of discomfort. Like, I'm completely comfortable with my connection to the enslaved people of this country. And I love, all of my relationships with people, who also reflect that phenotype, and Bob, you enjoy your relationships with whomever you like. So anyhow, Bob was the first guy or person who demonstrated colorism that was not born with a vagina. Now, the second person who was also not born with a vagina was Kendrick Lamar. Now, despite not being born with a vagina, I found a picture of Kendrick Lamar in a Chanel suit. Chanel doesn't make men's suits. So we see Kendrick Lamar in a Chanel suit wearing a pearl necklace. Y'all, a pearl necklace? I mean, I'm not like a really dirty, filthy, X-rated person, but a pearl necklace, usually on a man especially, signifies something that he was accusing Drake of being in one of his recent diss songs, which is a freaky A ninja. And that's what that signifies to me. Anyway, so Kendrick Lamar engaged in a random act of colorism this week. Now, Kendrick Lamar is well known for being a hip hop star. And he basically obliterated Drake this week in rap diss recording songs. And I'm not really just a huge Kendrick Lamar fan, but I feel like dancing to the last song that he made, Not Like Us. Even though what he was saying was certainly, it's a bop, even though what he was saying was wrong. And he was being colorist. And how he was being colorist was pushing Drake out of blackness. Now, he's being a hypocrite, too. So Kendrick Lamar is one of those people that just demands complete allegiance and reverence for Black culture and just loves blackness so much. He wrote about it in his last diss song to Drake. I'm going to read some of his lyrics. He basically called Drake a colonizer. In his last diss song where he calls Drake a colonizer, it's called They're Not Like Us, I believe. That's the name of the song. He calls Drake a colonizer, but he starts one of the verses, once upon a time, all of us was in chains. Homie still double down calling us some slaves. Now, he's very identified with slavery. When he says all of us was in chains, I presume he's also talking about Drake. I mean, Drake is the descendant of the American enslaved. He's also Canadian and Jewish who had a bat mitzvah. So he is certainly, not some street guy. And Kendrick Lamar isn't either. He's out here in a Chanel suit jacket with a pearl necklace on. Anyway, so he basically says, all these other rappers gave him street cred, gave him his lingo, and helped him get played in the club. You know, but he says, no, you're not a colleague, you're an effing colonizer. And it hit hard. That bar, it hit so hard. But it really isn't fair because he's basically othering him because of his white heritage and turning on him and not being the change that he wants to see in the world. Like Kendrick Lamar wants this allegiance from blackness, but then removes Drake from being black. And that's what people do when they say basically, you're not like us. You're not really black. We don't have to be, loyal to you. We can basically attack you and other you. And that happens a lot in the communities of the American enslaved. And it never works out well. I just don't sense that that's going to bode well for anyone. Like, it basically shows hypocrisy. And, there was a time when Kendrick Lamar was headlining for Drake. Like, they went on tour together in 2012. So they have been cool. And this back and forth beef, it's very interesting. Like, it's been lighting up the gossip blogs, and it's been very interesting. And that blow of colorism and snatching Drake's blackness away, and challenging him not to say the N-word, like, that's really definitely snatching blackness away, pushing people out of the culture, but then also wanting complete allegiance to black ideologies and black political viewpoints. It just does not work. Like, that's why, it just is something that limits the energy flow. In the exotical community here in the dollhouse, we want to keep the energy flowing. So there is no racial preference over here. The feeling of inferiority is what this channel seeks to eradicate from the minds of the enslaved people, the minds of any person under the sound of my voice. I want all of you to understand the divinity within, the power of God in you. Be led by that energy. Be guided by it first. And, hold your judgments for others. I have my own judgments. So, maybe I'm being a hypocrite by saying that. But what I'm really wanting to do is point out things that I observe that we can all learn from. And removing other people from blackness it's a dehumanizing tactic that it demonstrates a feeling of inferiority. It reveals a feeling of inferiority. So anyhow, I hope this makes sense, dolls. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Talk to you soon.